The stories presented in this video are real, but we have changed the characters' names and altered images to protect their identities. The creator of this video is not an investigative officer. These narratives have been sourced from various internet platforms. Our intent is not to accuse or target anyone in particular. Thank you for understanding.
Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today we're diving into two gripping stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love and betrayal. In our first story, we explore the tragic case of Lauren Phelps, a devoted pastor's wife whose life took a horrific turn. In September 2017, Lauren was murdered in her home, and the shocking details surrounding her death will reveal how a seemingly perfect marriage spiraled into chaos. Then we'll move on to our second story, which is equally chilling. A young woman kidnapped and murdered in a barn. The circumstances surrounding her tragic end will haunt you as we uncover the darker side of human nature. If you enjoy true crime tales, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Let's jump into our first story and uncover the dark secrets that led to this tragic event. When Lauren Phelps married the love of her life, Matthew Phelps, in 2016, it seemed like her life had just begun. Matthew was the church pastor, and Lauren taught Sunday school. Thus, the two had a strong commitment to their local Baptist church. But in the fall of 2017, something would permanently alter in their lives. In the middle of the night, the Phelps family was the scene of a horrific murder that Lauren, unfortunately, would not escape. When Matthew contacted 911 to report the incident, he gave detectives words that were unsettling, confusing, and unlike of anything they had ever heard. Unfortunately, this is one of those cases where we don't have a lot of background information. I'm not sure if Lauren and Matthew's family wanted to maintain their privacy after the crime, or if it was just a result of their declining many requests from reporters for interviews. But there is a lot of uncertainty around Lauren and Matthew's early years. I'm surprised at how much of the information I know about the pair comes from Instagram. I discovered that Lauren was connected to a business named Sensi. Sensi is a service that resembles several other programs, including Avon in many ways. On their website, you may sign up to sell goods in return for a little commission. In instance, Sensi is a business that specialized in selling scents, including wax warmers and candles. It is crucial to understand that they do not act as a sponsor. As far as I'm aware, Sensi appears to be yet another pyramid scam. But I don't know enough about the business to be certain. This is simply the image they portray. However, when Lauren teamed up with Sensi in 2015 or 2016, it seemed like she was doing really well. During her tenure at the firm, she had been awarded several accolades, and everything appeared to be going well for her. I understand that Lauren's employment with Sensi enabled her to lead a stay-at-home role while her fiancé and soon-to-be spouse pursued education and training to become a minister at their Baptist church. A pastor is someone who leads church services, delivers sermons, and occasionally even offers members counseling. For those of you who may not know much about the Baptist church, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know much about the Baptist faith either, a pastor is someone who does these things. A pastor is more like an elder, or someone who makes choices regarding the church's contributions, outreach programs, and overall directions in a non-denominational church, which is what I'm more familiar with. However, in the Baptist religion, this isn't actually the case, usually. Lauren seems to have met Matthew around the middle of 2014. Autumn of that year saw Lauren post about Matthew for the first time on social media, and the two appeared to click right away, going on to become a relationship in November of 2014. According to all of Lauren's family members, Matthew and Lauren appeared to have been a great fit for one another, with Matthew being a very straightforward and honest man. Lauren appeared to have finally found the person she had been looking for, as if all the pieces had fallen into place. Lauren was loved by Matthew because he let her be who she truly was. Although we are unsure of Lauren's long-term professional goals or college aspirations, we do know that her life took a positive turn the moment she met Matthew. Lauren developed a deeper involvement in her local church, and she was happy to assist Matthew when he declared his intention to start studying to become a pastor. Following a courtship of just under 2 years, the couple got engaged on Valentine's Day of 2016, and later that year, they tied the knot. Social media said that the two were utterly happy together. Their lives actually appeared to be perfect. However, you must constantly keep in mind that social media provides a very little window into people's actual life. As it turned out, their marriage had already started to fail as soon as it had started. As far as Lauren's family was concerned, she was unhappy, even though she appeared happy, and the majority of her unhappy feelings came from her new husband, Matthew. It would become out that Matthew was not the guy he claimed to be. You would never know it, but Lauren and Matthew were skating on very thin ice from the time they were married. Most of us already know, I'm sure, that when you marry someone, your money usually get combined. Though I am aware that some couples choose not to do this, most couples discuss everything with one another, including their finances. But this is where things started to get tense in the Phelps household. You see, things were going well between Matthew and Lauren when they were single. They could only discuss things with each other that they felt safe revealing since, at the end of the day, they were each in charge of their own lives. However, after being married, they felt somewhat obliged to tell each other everything, which is when Lauren started to learn some unexpected things about Matthew. After a few short months of cohabitation, Lauren started to see that Matthew had a serious money problem. Although the depth of the rabbit hole is unknown, Lauren's relatives and friends claimed that Matthew was spending like a member of Congress, even though, in actuality, his salary was negligible, at least not in comparison to the amount he was spending. Although I haven't been able to find concrete evidence to support this, it's safe to assume that Matthew was probably heavily indebted. However, don't take that to mean that. However, no matter how you looked at it, Matthew was living a lifestyle that wasn't sustainable, according to Lauren's co-workers. As a result, the couple's relationship inevitably suffered greatly, and Lauren was at her lowest point as soon as their marriage was formed. Lauren was well known for leading an incredibly resourceful, truthful, and sympathetic life. Conversely, Matthew had a rather boisterous and careless demeanor. Lauren had often spoken with him the huge amount of money he was spending, and although Matthew appeared to have tried hard to reduce his spending, he was unable to break the habit. Ultimately, purchasing items may become an addiction for many individuals, and it may even be a way for them to hide their suffering in different areas of their lives. Matthew's experience appears to support this theory. Matthew felt unfulfilled in his life. Although he appeared to have everything, a stunning wife, a rewarding career, a luxurious automobile, and all most people could possibly want, he wasn't content with that. Lauren became so worried about Matthew's spending patterns that she started restricting his access to their bank accounts. However, despite her efforts, Matthew would always find a way to get over Lauren's security measures. This led to one dispute after another, and before they knew it, both Lauren and Matthew were at wits' end with one another. Although Lauren appears determined to fix any issues the couple may have had, she has a limit to how much she will put up with. After discussing Matthew with a couple of her friends in the middle of 2017, Lauren started to worry that their relationship wouldn't last. She thought that no matter what she did, Matthew wouldn't reduce his spending, and that significant adjustments would have to be made if the couple were ever to become parents. But Matthew wouldn't agree to make these adjustments. Furthermore, although Lauren was still unable to provide any concrete evidence, she had started to suspect that Matthew was cheating. It was more of a gut feeling at this point than anything else. Though Lauren tried her hardest to look past Matthew's shortcomings, they were growing too big to overlook and making their lives spiral out of control. Matthew had other priorities, whereas Lauren was more focused on her adorable clothes, Star Wars, pets, and kids. You see, Matthew was not the guy he presented himself as. Matthew possessed a dark side. In contrast to Lauren's more lighthearted pastimes and interests, Matthew appeared to have a fondness for gothic and horror films, especially American Psycho. In case you haven't watched the film, Patrick Bateman, the main character, is an investment banker who leads a second life as a serial killer. Matthew's friends said he was actually kind of fascinated with the movie to an unsettling extent. On occasion, he would even dress up like some of the movie's characters for holidays. But one day, while chatting casually over drinks with one of his buddies, things became considerably darker and much more troubling. According to one friend, Matthew mentioned serial murders without seeming to be aroused. Not only that, but he also revealed that he would often wonder what it would be like to take another person's life. Now, I'm sure that everyone has thought about this at some point in their life, but Matthew appeared quite intrigued. For him, this was more than just an idle idea. The companion commented that while Matthew considered this, he could feel a strange energy surrounding him. Not too much time had passed when catastrophe hit. It was September 1st, 2017. The Phelps couple were comfortably sleeping in their condominium, and it was, by all means, a night like any other. The two had settled in for the evening and gone to bed like they normally did, but at some point in the middle of the night, Matthew was tortured by distorted nightmares that he couldn't seem to shake off. In fact, Matthew had admitted that he had trouble falling asleep most nights. This prompted him to use a variety of methods to try to get some sleep, frequently depending on over-the-counter drugs to do so, while there are rumors that he may have also used considerably more potent chemicals. Matthew had taken a lot of cough medicine that night since he had heard from a friend that it was the easiest way to go to sleep. However, one of the side effects of this drug is that it might result in some rather bizarre hallucinations, which Matthew was personally experiencing. He never explained exactly what these bizarre nightmares were about, but they were so upsetting that at some point he got out of bed to try to clear his head and get some rest. He stumbled over to the bedroom doorway as he scampered out of bed and flicked on the light, but when he turned to face the space, he was astounded by what he saw. He initially believed he was still hallucinating, but he quickly came to understand that this was not a dream, but rather the actual world. Upon turning around, Matthew discovered Lauren unconscious on the bedroom floor, with bloodstains all over the place. He saw a knife on the bed and realized he was completely covered in crimson as he looked down at his clothes. Unsure of what to do, Matthew called the authorities, the only prudent thing to do. Matthew told the operator something really unsettling after making a 911 call. He told the 911 operator that after having a terrifying dream, he switched on the lights and saw his wife on the floor. "I believe I killed mine," he said after this. Then he started to ramble. Desperately trying to figure out how anything like this could have happened, the dispatcher asked Matthew, who could only describe the crime scene. He was clearly in disbelief at what had happened. He could only explain that he had taken a lot of medicine for his cough and woke up to the scene of a crime. Matthew started crying as the conversation was ending and said that his wife wasn't deserving of this. Matthew was astonished, but he would not be for long. Later, when detectives visited the crime scene to gather any evidence they could, they discovered that a certain component of the scene didn't make sense. They noticed Matthew was very clean when they got to talk to him. They discovered he was in very great form for someone who had just woken up to a crime scene, despite the fact he had told the dispatcher he was covered in crimson stains. Detectives were able to determine quickly that Matthew had really cleaned up before the 911 call. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't believe taking a shower would be the first thing on my mind if I woke up and found my wife on the floor in a bedroom covered with evidence from floor to ceiling. Police were alerted right away to this tip. Matthew stuck to his tale during his police interviews and interrogation. He would always respond to questions with the same response. After taking far more medicine than he should have for his cough, he went to bed and woke up to the scene of a murder. Other than the strange fact that he cleaned up before calling 911, the police had no proof to support their claims. However, this isn't criminal activity by any means. It's simply strange. Though Matthew had remained innocent throughout the inquiry at first, he would later offer an odd confession that caught everyone off guard. Investigators weren't sure who to believe at this point. While the facts clearly conveyed a different picture of what happened that night, Matthew's account also made some sense, at least initially. Matthew's admission that cough syrup had affected him at the time of the crime seemed to be true, but the cough syrup's maker refuted this, saying that after years of investigation, they had found no evidence connecting the drug to violent behavior. Although the police were quite suspicious, they couldn't prove much at this point. Matthew was speaking with the judge who would be overseeing his case while his trial was in progress. During his conversation with the magistrate, Matthew's behavior started to shift. Until now, Matthew had displayed no signs of regret. In fact, they said he didn't even cry actual tears when they spoke with him at the crime scene, noting that he showed no discernible symptoms of grief. But Matthew had a dramatic change and confessed to the crime while he talked with the magistrate. He provided his version of events and discussed the potential that he was responsible for the crime. Then, a few short seconds later, he very much admitted that his behavior that evening was probably unrelated to the cough medicine. "Are you acknowledging your guilt?" the judge asked. Matthew agreed. While some prosecutors think Matthew simply did this to escape being executed, others think he was actually starting to exhibit signs of regret. To be honest, it's hard to say for sure, but this is by no means the end of the narrative, and things for Matthew would only grow worse from here on out. While the case was still being investigated and the trial was in progress, authorities located other social media profiles that belonged to Matthew. He has two Instagram profiles, one called Uncanny Matty and the other Marty Radical. Matthew nearly solely shared quotes and screen grabs from the movie American Psycho on his Marty Radical website. Since this account has since been made private, I am unable to verify any of the specific posts that Matthew made. However, the account's profile picture, a picture of Christian Bale from the movie, covered in red spatter, remains visible, so it's safe to assume that the accusations made there are most likely genuine. Let's just say that Matthew's bio didn't hold up well over time about his second account. The statement in his bio that says, "I'm just a forlorn anonymous drifting into the abstract," is the only portion of this page that is still viewable. It seems like I can no longer distinguish if I'm dreaming. Authorities have put up some audacious theories, including that Matthew lost his cool because he was so engrossed in American Psycho and angry at his wife for trying to manage their relationship and threatening to file for divorce. They say that in a fit of fury, he performed one of his favorite scenes from American Psycho, stabbing his wife over 120 times, and then took his time getting clean before calling the police. Even though Matthew has never directly acknowledged any of these accusations, I don't think it would be too much to assume that investigators are right to make these inferences. Following the incident, Lauren's father has apologized for the final few weeks of his daughter's life and spoken out about the case. He said he saw a change in his daughter's temperament just a few weeks before she passed away. She exuded fear, worry, and paranoia over something. He feels that this might suggest that Matthew's crime was planned and that Lauren may have suspected something negative was going to happen. He regrets not asking her more about this. Lauren found out that Matthew had been unfaithful to her, which exacerbated the situation even worse. Just hours before the crime scene was allegedly breached, according to Lauren's sister, she had a conversation with Lauren about Matthew's purported infidelity, having seen her husband secretly leave the house to spend time with someone else. Although it would make sense, Lauren's sister thinks that when Matthew lost his cool and started hitting Lauren, they were probably discussing this disagreement again. However, this has never been confirmed. Though I'm sure it goes without saying at this time, Lauren's family has been absolutely distraught by the whole incident, and we may never know for sure. Although, to be honest, I've found no reason to believe that this is true. Lauren's mother describes Matthew as a superb manipulator and believes the murder was planned months in advance. The majority of Lauren's wounds, according to her mother, reportedly came from behind. They have reason to think that he threw her to the ground, sat on top of her, and inflicted the majority of the wounds while she was helpless to resist him. Lauren's father said, "Every day I thought about what I did wrong, what I missed. Till this day, I only regret not knowing or keeping my eyes open and observing. I accepted things as they were." The father of Lauren said, "No, I'll carry it to my grave and I'll still detest him," in response to the question of whether Lauren would ever be able to forgive Matthew. Ultimately, Matthew received a life sentence without the chance of release. It's already apparent to me that some people who are watching this video will rush to the comments section and begin shouting about how this Christian guy killed his wife. Just to let you know, Matthew was not a Christian. Matthew was a joke, a charlatan. He didn't even identify as a pastor or as a pastor in training on one of his social media profiles. He was characterized as an entrepreneur, following the most basic instructions that God has given his followers, being in the world but not of it, helping those in need, loving our neighbors, and living up to the example that Christ established for his people are all part of what it means to be a Christian. That's not who Matthew was. Matthew was a vindictive guy who had long since abandoned his faith. He is not representative of any Christian I have ever seen, and I find it distressing that I have brought him up in relation to being a minister of God's word. Matthew got exactly what he deserved, and he's nothing more than a wolf in a sheep's cave. As painful as it may be to hear at times, there is always hope for redemption in the real world of Christianity. Before Matthew's time runs out, I sincerely hope that he is able to recognize the suffering and loss he has caused to so many innocent people, accept responsibility for his actions, and perhaps even change before it's too late. Thank you all for joining this week's True Crime Stories program. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe for more true crime content. A great way to support the channel is by leaving a comment below. Any feedback is welcome. Sierra Juggin was a vibrant young woman whose laughter echoed in the hearts of everyone around her. She had a way of lighting up a room, her infectious happiness and humor drawing friends and family close. With her dazzling smile and quick wit, Sierra became the sun in her loved ones' lives. She had a mischievous spark in her eyes that hinted at her adventurous spirit, and even when she made mistakes, her charm often diffused any tension, leaving her mother with a smile, despite the circumstances. As she navigated the transition from middle school to high school, Sierra thrived, embracing new experiences and challenges with gusto. Her passion for volleyball was one of the cornerstones of her life. Every practice, every match was filled with her enthusiasm and commitment. Sierra was not just a player, she was a leader, always encouraging her teammates and celebrating their victories, big or small. Her friends often marveled at how effortlessly she seemed to juggle academics, sports, and a bustling social life. She approached life with an unwavering confidence that inspired those around her. On July 19, 2016, the Juggin family returned home from a much-anticipated vacation. The trip had been filled with laughter and bonding moments that they would cherish forever. As they unpacked their bags, Sierra buzzed with excitement for the upcoming fall semester at the University of Toledo. She had grand ambitions, dreaming of studying abroad and immersing herself in new cultures. Her mother was eager to discuss these plans with her, but Sierra was distracted by a new toy, the bike she had received as a gift. Sierra dressed casually in her favorite shorts and a tank top, ready to take her new bike for a spin. With her hair pulled back in a ponytail and a carefree attitude, she told her mother she was heading over to her boyfriend Josh's house, which was a mere few miles away. She was full of anticipation, eager to catch up with him. Her mother, caught up in the day's chores, nodded, reminding her to be careful and promising to talk about her study abroad, dreams later. With the sun shining brightly, Sierra hopped on her bike, her heart light with the thrill of adventure. As she rode through the neighborhood, the world felt full of possibilities. She waved at familiar faces and reveled in the freedom of being outdoors. But as dusk settled, her cheerful spirit would soon be tested in ways no one could have imagined. When Josh realized that Sierra had not returned after several hours, a sense of unease crept over him. He had been trying to reach her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. By 10:15 p.m., he decided to call Sierra's mother, his voice heavy with concern. When he inquired about her whereabouts, Sierra's mother felt an icy chill grip her heart. Sierra was usually responsible and would never go missing without a word. Feeling a knot of worry tightening in her chest, she immediately contacted Sierra's grandparents, who lived nearby. They too had not seen her, and panic began to set in. The night air was thick with anxiety as the family realized that something was deeply wrong. Sierra's mother called upon Josh to join them, and together they began a frantic search. Jumping into her car, Sierra's mother drove through the neighborhood with her heart racing. She scoured the streets, hoping to find any trace of her daughter. Every passing car, every shadow seemed to amplify her fear. As she drove, memories of Sierra flashed through her mind, their laughter, the moments they had shared, the plans they had made. Meanwhile, Sierra's aunt and uncle joined the search, their faces etched with worry. As the hours dragged on and darkness enveloped the neighborhood, desperation turned to dread. Each passing minute felt like an eternity, and the image of Sierra lying injured somewhere haunted her mother's thoughts. She imagined her daughter calling out for help, perhaps lost or in danger. Despite their relentless efforts, no trace of Sierra appeared. Returning home, Sierra's mother refused to succumb to despair. She took to social media, reaching out to friends and acquaintances, hoping someone might have seen or heard from Sierra. The digital age had its advantages, and she knew that if enough people were alerted, they might find her. But as the night wore on, the responses were dishearteningly few. Frustration and fear melded into a potent cocktail of anxiety, compelling her to contact the police. It was a decision no parent ever wishes to make, but the stakes were too high. An hour later, a neighbor called with alarming news. County Road 6 was blocked off. The police were investigating a situation that could be linked to her daughter. Heart-pounding, Sierra's family rushed to the scene, their hopes flaring and dimming with every passing moment. Upon arrival, they encountered a chaotic scene of flashing lights, officers, and the distant murmurs of concerned voices. The family's anguish was palpable as they clung to one another, desperate for answers. "What do you know about my daughter?" Sierra's mother demanded, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and defiance. Officers, though sympathetic, could only offer platitudes, unable to provide concrete information. They assured her they would do everything possible to find Sierra, but the uncertainty gnawed at her insides. As the investigation unfolded, the small-town police quickly realized the need for more resources. They contacted the FBI, who brought in additional personnel to help coordinate the search. With every passing hour, the clock seemed to tick louder, and Sierra's family remained awake, their hearts heavy with worry and dread. The dark night outside mirrored the turmoil within them as they called local hospitals, desperate to find any sign of their beloved daughter. Just when hope felt utterly extinguished, a glimmer emerged. A lead from a hospital in Detroit reported a young woman fitting Sierra's description had been admitted after escaping from a moving vehicle. The family rushed to the hospital, clinging to the hope that their beloved daughter might still be alive. Yet when they arrived, they were met with disappointment. The young woman was not Sierra. The crushing blow sent them reeling back into the depths of despair. The next morning, police arrived at Sierra's home, bringing an update that sent chills down their spines. During a routine patrol, an officer discovered a broken cornfield nearby. Signs of a struggle were evident. Twisted stalks marked a path where something had transpired. The officer noted motorcycle tracks leading away from the scene, and amidst his search, he found something heart-stopping: Sierra's purple bike. The realization hit them like a freight train. This was no mere disappearance. It was an abduction. With urgency and a sense of dread, the police began collecting evidence from the scene. They discovered a pair of male sunglasses, a bloody sock, and a screwdriver. Each piece a disturbing puzzle in the growing mystery of Sierra's fate. As detectives delved deeper, they began questioning Sierra's friends and family, hoping to piece together her last moments. Through their inquiries, they learned about Sierra and Josh's close relationship. Friends since childhood, they had transitioned into a romantic couple during their freshman year of high school. They often reminisced about their shared adventures on ski slopes and the dreams they had for the future. When detectives spoke with Josh, he recounted the day they had spent together. It had been joyful, filled with the lightness of young love. But when Sierra had insisted he turn back on their bike ride, a shadow fell over the day. Josh reluctantly agreed, unaware of the danger that lay ahead. As the investigation intensified, detectives combed through the evidence with painstaking detail. They discovered motorcycle tracks in the cornfield near where Sierra's bike had been found, sparking suspicion of a local man named James Worley. Worley, when approached, claimed he had been out on his motorcycle the day Sierra went missing, but asserted his bike had broken down. Yet, as the detectives examined his story, they noted inconsistencies that raised their concerns further. During their investigation, they observed scratches on Worley's face, indicating he had been involved in a struggle. Alarmingly, they discovered that he had a history of criminal behavior, including a previous attempted abduction. The detectives felt a chill run down their spines, realizing they might be dealing with a predator. With renewed urgency, detectives returned to Worley's property, armed with a search warrant. Their findings in the barn were disturbing: bags of women's underwear, tools associated with abduction, and an air mattress stained with unknown substances all painted a dark picture of Worley's character. The evidence began to paint a troubling portrait: and the detectives knew they were closing in on a suspect. As the investigation unfolded, the community rallied together. Search parties formed, filled with concerned citizens, friends and family, all combing through fields and cornrows, driven by the hope of finding Sierra. Local news stations covered the story, keeping her name in the headlines and raising awareness. The candlelight vigil held in her honor was a testament to the love and support Sierra inspired, drawing hundreds who shared stories of her kindness and spirit. Days turned into a blur of interviews, searches, and frantic hope as the police continued their relentless pursuit of the truth. Then a breakthrough came when a farmer noticed an area of flattened corn in his field. As he approached, he spotted a mound of dirt that looked suspiciously out of place. Trusting his instincts, he contacted the police, who responded promptly. Upon arrival, officers examined the mound, feeling a rising sense of dread. Digging deeper, they unearthed evidence that would forever change the course of the investigation. The remains of a young woman were discovered, leading to a chilling confirmation through DNA testing. It was Sierra Juggin. The news reverberated through the community, plunging her family into a pit of despair. Clara, Sierra's mother, felt as if the world had crumbled beneath her. She was overwhelmed with grief, her heart shattered into a million pieces. Sierra's family now faced the agonizing reality of planning a funeral for their beloved daughter. The heart-wrenching task of saying goodbye was further complicated by the harrowing details of the investigation, which were unfolding publicly. James Worley was swiftly arrested, facing charges of kidnapping and murder. As the evidence against him mounted, it painted a horrific picture of Sierra's last moments, leaving the family grappling with questions that would never have answers. When the trial began, it drew national attention, becoming a focal point for discussions about safety and justice. The courtroom was packed with community members eager to bear witness to the proceedings, their hearts aching with the desire for justice. Sierra's family sat through days of emotional testimonies, often reliving their loss as the prosecution painted a vivid picture of who Sierra was: a daughter, a friend, a vibrant soul taken too soon. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Worley pleaded not guilty, igniting outrage among those who filled the courtroom. Witness after witness took the stand, sharing cherished memories of Sierra's life, painting a picture of a young woman full of dreams and aspirations. The juxtaposition of her vibrant existence against the dark realities of her abduction left many in tears. After 8 agonizing days of testimony, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, hearts racing as everyone awaited the verdict. When the announcement finally came, guilty on all charges, the air was filled with a mix of relief and sorrow. Clara collapsed into the arms of her family, tears streaming down her face, her heart torn between the relief of justice served and the anguish of loss. In the months that followed, the community sought ways to honor Sierra's memory. A memorial was established in her name, a place for family and friends to gather and celebrate her life. Local schools initiated programs focused on safety awareness and community vigilance, ensuring that Sierra's story would serve as a catalyst for change. Workshops were held to educate parents and children about the importance of safety, self-defense, and community engagement. Though the pain of loss lingered like an unwelcome shadow, Sierra's spirit became a beacon of hope and resilience. Her family and friends turned their grief into action, becoming advocates for missing persons and working to change policies surrounding safety and awareness. In Sierra's honor, they established scholarships to support young women pursuing education, echoing her dreams and ensuring her legacy would continue to inspire others. As the years passed, the community never forgot Sierra. Her name became synonymous with resilience, and the memorial in her honor served as a gathering place for those touched by her spirit. The annual Remembrance event grew, drawing people from near and far to celebrate Sierra's life, share stories, and promote the values she embodied: kindness, courage, and the importance of cherishing every moment. In the end, Sierra Juggin's story became a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the strength of community. Her memory lived on in the hearts of those who loved her, a testament to the enduring spirit of a young woman whose light flickered too soon. As they moved forward, her family and friends continued to honor her legacy, determined to make the world a safer place for future generations. forever carrying Sierra's spirit within them.